Okay, good morning all. I'm Emily Ruddick, Executive Director of Mass Creative, and I'm here with our team members, G. Quash, Director of Engagement and Organizing, and our brand new Communications and Membership Associate, Alex Thorne. Welcome to the team, Alex. We are gonna run through sort of the latest and greatest from policy and action from both the federal and state level. So let's get started. Okay, so cue the sad trombone. I'm sure many of you who are either owners or run venues or eligible for the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant came into a rude surprise when the portal, the application portal, got overloaded, I think within an hour of it being opened and shut down temporarily. So today, applications are still not being accepted per the SBA, but you can still create an account on the portal, but you cannot access the program application. And so, you know, the other stat that someone shared with me is that over 14,000 accounts have been created to date. So, and this information, just thank you, was passed along to me by Deborah Cash, who runs Boston Dance Alliance. Thank you, Deborah, for this information. So a couple of things, right? We know that there are some things that you still need to do in order to be prepared to apply. We also know that there is drafts of the application out there. So just because they're not accepting applications doesn't mean you shouldn't get your materials together, and you shouldn't make, and you should make an account so that when it reopens, you are ready to go. They expect to do another FAQ that will include definitions of terms, including earned revenue, gross earned revenue, and gross revenue, which we've fielded a couple of questions on already. So we know that that's an issue, and they know it's an issue. And then they expect to have an updated user application user guide that will be released 24 hours before the portal reopens. I hope in the chat we have, let me just, sorry. In the chat, we should have posted, give me one sec, friends. Okay, Leland's saying is unable to create an SBA account on the SVG portal, SVOG portal. Okay, so here are some resources that could answer that question and many others. So there are recordings of all the webinars that SBA has put out. Next week, the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center Network is going to hold a webinar, which you can register for. And the Arts and Business Council is still offering 15-minute one-on-one sort of technical assistance sessions to sort of help you get your legs underneath you in terms of that form and the process. So those are all resources that we highly encourage you to use. The MA Small Business Development Center Network also has staff who you can reach out to, and these are really great resources to avail yourself of. So next, here's my it's my second clip art for the day. So here's one of the reasons I am really celebratory. So the House Ways and Means budget, or the House Ways and Means Committee, released their version of the budget. And they included exactly what the Mass Cultural Council requested for their annual budget allocation, $20 million. For many of you who are longtime arts advocates and have been at this longer than me, you know how rare it is for the House to actually include exactly the number that the agency has requested. That is a huge deal. This is also the first budget that's being put out under the leadership of the new House Speaker, Ron Mariano of Quincy. And it's only the second budget put together by the not so newish House Ways and Means Chair, Representative Aaron Michowitz of the North End in Boston. So this is really great. This is a big deal. This is a different moment than we've been in a while, and we should be really grateful. And we should be really grateful because advocacy works, right? We have all made the case. Any one of you who has, as an individual artist or an organization, submitted data that the Mass Cultural Council has asked for in their COVID-19 impact surveys, you are the reason that this has happened. Anyone who reached out to one of your elected officials to tell your story about what was happening over the last 13 months, both in terms of the loss as well as the things that you continue to do to take care of your community, you are the reason this happened. Anyone who, amplified asks that we've made with your audiences, your friends, your family, or your networks, you are the reason that this is happening. So this is a big deal. And this is why advocacy works. And you'll see I've got a couple of bullet points. But wasn't in the 1980s, the Mass Cultural Council budget was up to $25 million? Yes, it was. We've gone through multiple recessions. We have a different line. There are a number of different expenses in Massachusetts. But I want to remind you that in 2012, the Mass Cultural Council budget was at about $9 million. And because we've worked together and united in our grassroots advocacy, we're making incremental progress. So it's not happening overnight, but we're working hard on that all together. And then the other question I've been getting is, but what about the $31 million that was included as authorized spending in the economic development bill that we all worked so hard for over the summer? Well, that's still in process too. So as we talked about, the legislature authorized that money. They basically said to Governor Baker, like, here's all the money that you can spend on these projects. But Governor Baker doesn't have to spend all that money. So right now, he and his team, as well as Secretaries Keneally and Heffernan, are putting together the fiscal year 22 capital spending plan. And so we are working with partners in the Mass Cultural Council, as well as others across the state, to make sure that Governor Baker and his secretaries, Heffernan and Keneally, understand how important it would be to get a majority of that $31 million out the door as quickly as possible. Remember, it's a bond bill, so we have 5 years to spend that money, right? Or they have 5 years in which they can spend that money. So they may not include it all in this first year, but we're going to keep on it, right? And then what about the 200 million that we've been working on? Yeah, we are working on that, but that's not part of state, the annual state budget process. And again, right, so the budget, the state budget comes from state revenues, taxes, fees and payments, right? That 200 million is coming from federal state aid that's coming to Massachusetts. And so those are two different things. And the legislature, I'll have a slide in a second, the legislature is considering them in two different pots. So we haven't stopped working on that. It's not like we're like, oh, we asked for 200 million. We're so excited about 20 million. We actually asked for 20 million for the annual budget. And so this is great news. So thank you all. Oh, wow, I'm rocketing really quickly through this. Let me get back on track. Okay, there we go. So thank yous are important. Just like when your mother or father or person in your life told you to write a note to someone who gave you a gift to thank them, it matters. It matters for a couple of reasons. One, it's a nice thing to do. And second, it continues to demonstrate that we're paying attention to what lawmakers are doing, right? And that we care about this issue. So we have set up a little thank you note that you can use, and quickly we pre-populated it for you so you can add your own little story, but the basic body of the email is there. And everyone will be able to write a note to Speaker Mariano, to Ways and Means Chair Michaelwitz, and to Tourism, Arts and Cultural Development Chair Fiola. And I want to just recognize, right? So Chair Fiola was appointed chair in February. And since then, she has moved really, really quickly to organize and build support inside the State House to make sure that both Speaker Mariano and Chair Michaelwitz understand how much this means to the arts and cultural community and to communities at large. So a special shout out to Chair Fiola for her leadership work on the House side. And the other thank you note you can write, which will be pre-programmed for you, is to your state representative, right? So we're just being thrown out lots of love. Just a little bit more about the state budget process. So House budget amendments, so that's the process that we usually find ourselves in with the Mass Cultural Council budget. They're due today. If you are the kind of person like me who loves sifting through, you can actually go onto the website right now, and I think we've included a link in the chat, and you can you can look at all the amendments that have been filed and see what legislators are asking for in terms of additions or differences in the House budget from the version that the Ways and Means put out. We expect that House debate will start on April 27th. And then once that finishes, we will then all wait for the Senate Ways and Means to put out their version. And just again, for a little historical context, usually, right, the Governor Baker level funds or, decreases the Mass Cultural Council budget, where we work really hard in the House and we get to level funding in the House. And then when we get to the Senate, that's historically where the Senate has been a little bit more amenable to an increase. So we don't expect to see a lot of obstacles or barriers in the Senate, but that doesn't mean that we aren't going to still pay attention and still be ready to act if we need to. Okay, so this is the whole piece about state and local aid. So as part of the American Rescue Plan Act, there was a significant amount of money included for that will go to every state and then to every city and community in the nation as well as in the Commonwealth. And so we now expect that the feds will release guidance on more specific guidance on how that money needs to be doled out in mid-May. Then we are also hearing likely that the legislature will take up a federal stimulus spending bill in early fall. So we'll be paying attention to that. And then the other piece is right, there's state money. There's about $4 billion going to the state, but then there's about $4.5 billion going to every single city and town in Massachusetts. And that's an opportunity for advocacy as well, right? We know that every city and town is going to have a different process for how they're going to allocate and figure out how to spend that money. But we should be starting to think about how we as arts advocates are going to advocate to our cities and town officials to make sure that the arts are not forgotten when that money is being put together. Okay, my next clip art picture. Yay! Congratulations, everyone. It's a bill. So the Cultural Commonwealth Futures Act has gone through its next step in its legislative cycle. So it was filed. You may have noticed, if you were the kind of person who would notice that, is that we were always talking about SD 2105. And that means it was Senate docket 2105. But the Senate clerks have now officially made it a bill and given it a bill number, which is S 2246, and it has now been assigned officially to the Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development Committee for review. So that review will most likely include a hearing. We have until that hearing to get as many co-sponsors as we can to that bill. And right now we have 51 co-sponsors. Why do co-sponsors matter? Because the more co-sponsors you have on a bill, the more it demonstrates support within the building for that legislation. And we have a ways to go. We really need to keep pushing at this. So there are a couple of ways that you can do that. First, if you haven't already reached out to your state rep and your state senator, state reps can sponsor Senate bills, and this is a Senate bill right now. Make sure that you do. You reach out and ask them. We included in the chat a little link where you can do that. It makes it really easy. And then second, we also have created a toolkit, an advocacy toolkit that you can use both to share your support for this bill and ask your friends and your family to also write to their legislators in support of this bill. And if you are running an organization, you can share this information with your staff, your board, and your audiences. This is a really great way to engage your audiences and sort of help them understand how you, as an arts and cultural organization, are a civic leader and an advocate for the arts. So please consider doing that. Okay, next up, we are really excited. We've been working with the Theater Offensive and with the U.S. Department of Arts and Culture to plan and host and launch the 2021 Poetic Address to the Nation. It'll happen next week, April 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. There's a really cool lineup of performers from across the country. There's also, you'll see 3 different Boston-based or Massachusetts-based performers who are participating. So Harold Stewart, who is the executive director and cultural strategist for the Theater Offensive, will be actually giving the poetic address to the nation. Then the Boston Children's Chorus will be performing, and Danza Organica, which is a dance company based out of Boston, will also be performing. So we hope you will participate participate in this. We've really enjoyed working with the artists involved and with everyone on this project. This is also about how advocacy comes in many shapes and sizes, right? And there is direct advocacy, writing to your legislators, and then there's creative advocacy, and this is a great example of this. And so we're really excited to be a part of this and hope you'll join us all for the event next week. Okay, so finally, I feel like the reason I am so joyful this Friday is because we've had some incremental wins, but more importantly, it's because I'm seeing what happens when we all work together and when we all are rowing in the same direction. A rising tide lifts all boats, singing from the same songbook, whichever is your favorite turn of phrase, it matters. And I'm gonna ask you and to ask your friends and family to help us continue to do that work. There are two ways you can do that. The first one is if you lead or are part of an organization, make sure that your organization is a member. That's actually really important. So when I testified at a hearing of the Tourism, Arts and Cultural Development Committee about the impact of COVID on the arts and cultural community last Friday, I was able to say that Mass Creative represents over 400 arts and cultural organizations across Massachusetts. That gives legitimacy to all of our work and all of our united advocacy to say, like, look, this isn't just a few people trying to take care of their own special interests. This is about a whole community and a whole ecosystem that matters. So if you can consider joining, that would be great. And then the other way is become a sustaining member. For as little as a cup of coffee, you can make sure that Alex G, myself, and Selassie are all continuing to be able to focus on the work that matters most. So I am again, as always, I'm glad to be in community with you all via Zoom. Next, we will be back on April 30th. Please feel free to pre-register. And thank you all. If it is not snowing, or if you are someone who loves snow, I hope you will get outside today or this weekend. Or if not, I hope you have a lovely, cozy indoor activity to enjoy. Thank you so much.